started that intro. I could do that way more energetically. Alrighty, everybody, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of Library of Awakening. In today's episode, we're going to be opening up the Magus from Francis Barrett, an occult work first published in 1801. Book's over 200 years old. And it attempted to bring centuries of esoteric knowledge together into one collection. And when you see what Barrett says, he compiled you to understand why this book still gets attention to this day. It's not very well known. Surprisingly, it was actually one of the best performing short videos that I made on TikTok. A lot of you seemed interested in the book. But the book talks about natural magic. It talks about the Cabala, it talks about alchemy, it talks about astrology, talismans, magnetism, numbers, ceremonial magic. It talks about prophetic dreams, talks about ancient philosophers. So we're going to dive into this book today. I'm going to give you guys a solid 20-30 minute read. If I have more time than that, then so be it. If not, we'll cut it off at about 20-30 minutes, which should allow us to get through the preface and at least a portion of the introduction. So starting off here, we see the title of the book. Here's this gentleman, Francis Barrett, student in chemistry, metaphysics, natural, and occult philosophy. And the book cover is very interesting. It's got an Egyptian vibe to it. The Book of the Magus, or the Magi. An unbridged reprint of Barrett Magus from London, 1801. The complete system of occult philosophy consisting of natural, celestial, Kabbalistic, and ceremonial magic, invocations, and conjurations of spirit. What's going on, everybody? Rolling in. Maybe we'll skip the publisher's notice. Now, we'll read the whole entire thing top down. There's a certain kind of energy based on the existence of a mixed world, placed without, not within us, and into communication with which we can enter by the use of certain arts and practices, has long ago been demonstrated as a fact that these forces can get a hold of a person and break him down as easily as the fearful hurricane sweeps all before it, striking him in 1,000 places at the same time, without his being able to perceive the invisible foe or being able to protect himself, is also proven. But that these forces may be dominated so that they will obey the thoughts, answer to the voice, and understand the meaning of traces and trace signs, is what many cannot realize and what their reason rejects. Yet this also is capable of being demonstrated and proven. The reader and student should always bear in mind that in trying to demonstrate these things for himself, he is working with the unseen and powerful agents, which, if he is not equally powerful, pure, and high minded, loving his fellow man and seeking to benefit mankind, rather than seeking or desiring powers and benefits for himself, he had much better be dead than try any of these things for the gratification of his personal nature. For in seeking to harm another, curses like chickens soon come home to roost with a much greater force than the original impulse. It's pretty much telling you not to fuck around with any of this stuff unless you have a pure heart. It's what I'm going to take away from the publisher's notice. The table of contents looks absolutely insane. Natural magic, alchemy, talismanic magic, images of the moon, Mercury, Venus, the sun, the power efficacy of numbers and the construction of talismans, the great virtues of numbers as well in natural as in supernatural things. Starting with the preface. In this work, which we have written chiefly for the information of those who are curious and indefatigable in their inquiries into the occult knowledge, we have at a vast labor and expense, both of time and charges collected whatsoever can be deemed curious and rare, in regard to the subject of our speculations in natural magic, the Cabala, celestial and ceremonial magic, alchemy, magnetism, and have divided it into two books, subdivided into two parts, to which we have added a third book containing a let me skip all this. I feel like I'm wasting time. Let's go into the introduction instead of the preface. Like, I don't want to know that y'all wrote two books. I just want to read the two books you all wrote. Introduction. It has been a subject of ancient dispute whether or not the stars, as second causes, do so rule and influence man as to engraft in his nature certain passions, virtues, propensities, etc., and this to take root in him at a very critical moment of his being born into this vale of misery and wretchedness. Likewise, if their sight and configuration at this time do shew forth his future passions and pursuits, and by their revelations transist and direct aspects, they point out the particular accidents of the body marriage, sickness, preferments, and such alike. Geez, man, this book is definitely written in 1801. You can tell in the first paragraph, shit's not making sense. It's an old book, but hopefully it clicks. Let's see what it's got. And such like, the which I have often revolved in my mind for many years past, have been at all times and all places a warm advocate for stellary divination, or astrology. Therefore, in this place, it is highly necessary that we examine how far this influence extends into man, seeing that I fully admit that man is endowed with the free will from God, which the stars in no way can counteract. Let me highlight that. I like that sentence right there. Seeing that we have a complete system in ourselves, therefore, oh, this is not, yeah, this one's going to get deep. Hold on. I definitely got to highlight this. Therefore, in this place, it is highly necessary that we examine how far this influence extends to man, seeing that I fully admit that man is endowed with a free will from God, which the stars in no way can counteract. And as there is in man the power and apprehension of all divination and wonderful things, seeing that we have a complete system in ourselves, therefore are we called the microcosm, or little world. For we carry a heaven in ourselves from our beginning, for God hath sealed in us the image of himself. And of all created beings, we are the epitome. Therefore, we must be careful lest we confound and mix one thing for another. Nevertheless, man, as a pattern of the great world, sympathizes with it. Let me reread that. That word is a little bit small in text. Nevertheless, man, as a pattern of the great world, sympathizes with it according to the stars, which, agreeably to the holy scriptures, are set for times and seasons, and not as causes of this or that evil, which may pervade kingdoms or private families, although they do in some measure for eschew them. Hold on. Although they do, hold on, why does it say it like that? Sorry, guys, the text is really small. I apologize. Although they do in some measure foreshew them, yet they are in no wise the cause. Therefore, I conceive in a wide different sense to what it is generally understood that stars rule men, but a wise man rules the stars. To which I answer that the stars do not rule men, according to the vulgar and received opinion, as if the stars should stir up men to murderers, seditions, broils, lusts, fornications, and adulteries, drunkenness, and etc., which the common astrologers hold forth as sound and true doctrine, because they say Mars and Saturn being conjunct do this and much more, and many other configurations and afflictions of the two great infortunes. When the benevolent planets, Jupiter, Venus, and Sol, happen to be detrimented or afflicted, therefore, then they say, man influenced. By them are most surely excited to the commission of the vices before named. Yet a wise man may be but the liberty, or at the liberty, of his own free will, make those affections and inclinations void. And this they call to rule the stars. I like that. So it's pretty much saying that all the bullshit that exists where people are like, oh, the moon is aligned, so people are gonna act funky, right? Or oh, the planets are in freaking alignment, so people are gonna act crazy is false. People all the time have free will, no matter what the stars in the sky are doing. At least that's what I'm taking away from this. But let them know according. So the sense here understood first, it is not in a wise man to resist evil inclinations, but of the grace of God. And we call none wise, but such as are endued with grace. For as we have said before, all natural wisdom from the hands of man is foolishness in the sight of God, which was not before understood to be a wise man fenced with grace. For why should he rule the stars, who has not any occasion to fear conquered inclinations? Therefore, a natural wise man is a subject to the slavery of sin, as others more ignorant than himself. Yet the stars do not incline him to sin. God created the heavens without spot and pronounced them good. Therefore, it is the greatest absurdity to propose or suppose the stars, by a continual inclining of us to this or that misdeed, should be our. Let me reread that whole entire sentence. God created the heavens without spot and pronounced them good. Therefore, it is the greatest absurdity to suppose the stars, by a continual inclining of us to this or that misdeed, should be our tempters, which we eventually make them if we admit they cause inclinations, but know that it is not from without, but within, by sin that evil inclinations do rise. According to the scriptures, out of the heart of man proceed evil cogitations, murmurs, and adulteries, thefts, murders, etc. Because as the heavens and apprehension of all celestial virtues are sealed by God in the soul and spirit of man, so when man becomes depraved by sin and the indulgence of his gross and carnal appetite, he then becomes the seat of inferior powers, which may be justly deemed a hell. For then the bodily and fleshy sense obscures the bright purity and thinness of the spirit, and he becomes the instrument of our spiritual enemy and the exercise of all infernal lusts and passions. Yo, the normal person is not reading this fucking book. I'll tell you that. They're closing this shit after like the second paragraph. 110%. What book are we reading? Team, we are reading the Book of the Magi, Complete System of Occult Philosophy. And this book is from 1801. So it's over 200 years old. First published, in 1801. So probably written well before then, who knows, but published in 1801. Therefore, it is most necessary for us to know that we are to be aware of granting or believing any effects from the influence of the stars more than they have naturally, because they are many. Let me reread that. I'm sorry, y'all. This print is so tiny. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. It's not that much better, but it helps. It's like the font on my screen is big, but the text is pinched small. I don't know why, but my brain doesn't click with this text. Therefore, it is most necessary for us to know that we are to be aware or beware of granting or believing any effects from the influence of the stars more than they have naturally, because there are many whom I have lately conversed with, and great men too, in this nation, who readily affirm that the stars are the causes of any kinds of diseases, inclinations, and fortunes. Likewise, that they blame the stars for all their misconduct and misfortune. Nevertheless, we do not by these discourses prohibit or deny all influence to the stars. On the contrary, we affirm there is a natural sympathy and into oh God, what the heck? Okay, let's skipping that. Antipathy. What the heck? That's a weird word. Antipathy amongst all things. I don't like the way that they split that word. An antipathy amongst all things throughout the whole universe, and this we shall shew to be displayed through a variety of effects, and likewise that the stars as signs do foreshew great mutations, revelations, deaths of great men, governors of provinces, kings, and emperors, likewise the weather, tempest, earthquakes, and deluges. And this according to the law of providence. The lots of all men do stand in the hands of the Lord, for he is the end and the beginning of all things. He can remove crowns and scepters and displace most cautious arrangements and counsels of men, who, when he thinks himself most secure, tumbles headlong from the sea of power and lies groveling in the dust. Therefore, our astrologers and most of their speculations seek without a light, for they conceive everything may be known or read in the stars. If an odd silver spoon is but lost, the innocent stars are obliged to give an account of it. If an old maiden loses a favorite puppy, away she goes to an oracle of divination for information of the whelp. O vile credulity, to think that those celestial bodies take cognizance of and give in their configurations and aspects continual information of the lowest and vilest transactions of dotards. This book is shit on everybody right now. 1801 is lit. Like, what? Why the fuck people are really like that? I swear to God, they'll be like, yo, the moons are aligning. My fucking dog ran away. Stars don't give a fuck about your dog, bro. Oh my God. That cracked me up. You have to understand astrology and fucking zodiac and shit to even laugh at that. Oh, oh man, that was good. People say you can't get entertainment in books. Nah, you can't get entertainment in books written by AI, but read a book from 1801 and you'll laugh your ass off. O vile credulity to think that those celestial bodies take cognizance of and given their configurations, aspects, continual information of the lowest and vilest transactions of dotards, the most trivial and frivolous questions that are pretended to be resolved by an inspection into the figure of the heavens. Well does our legislature justly condemn as juggling impostors all those idle vagabonds. Our legislators justly condemn as juggling impostors all those idle, oh, I read that twice, sorry, vagabonds who invest various parts of this metropolis and impose upon the simple and unsuspecting by answering for a shilling or half crown fee, whatever thing or circumstances may be proposed to them as if they were God's vicegerents on earth, and his deputed privy counselors. They do not even scruple ever to persuade poor mortals of the lower class that they show images in glasses as if they actually confederated with evil spirits. A notable instance I will here recite that happened very lately in this city. I don't know what city he's talking about. Two penurious Frenchmen, so in France maybe, I don't know, taking advantage of the credulity of the common people who are continually gaping after such toys, had so contrived a telescope or optic glass on that various letter and figures should be reflected in an obscure manner, shewing the images of men and women, so that when anyone came to consult these jugglers after paying the usual fee, they, according to the agent's urgency of the query, produced answers by those figures or letters, the which affrights the inspector into the glass so much hand, by which they remain under the full conviction of having actually betime or beheld the parties they wish to see, though perhaps they may at the same time be residing many hundreds of miles distant therefrom. They have received this impression from a preconceived idea of seeing the image of their friend in this optical machine. Go away and anon reports, with an addition of 10 hundred lies, that they have been witnessed of a miracle. I say this kind of deception is only to be acted with the vulgar, who rather than have their imaginations balked, would swallow the most abominable lies and conceits. For instance, who would suppose that any rational being could be persuaded that a fellow creature of proper size and stature should be able by any means to thrust his body into a quart bottle, the which thing was advertised to the public by a merry knave, not thinking there was such fools in existence, to be done by him in a public theatre. Upwards of 600 persons were assembled to behold the transaction, never doubting but the fellows meant to keep his word, when to the great mortification and disgrace of his long-headed audience, the conjurer came forth amidst a general stir and buzz of, now, see, he is just going to jump in. Indeed, he says, the conjurer, ladies and gentlemen, I am not for, if you were such fools as to believe such an absurdity, I am not wise enough to do it. Therefore, making his bow, he disappeared to the great discomfort of these wise heads, who straightway withdrew in the best manner they could. As for the telescope magicians, they were taken into custody by the gentlemen of the police office and Bow Street, nor would their familiar do them the kindness to attempt their rescue. But to have done with these things that are unworthy our notice as philosophers, and to proceed to matters of a higher nature, it is to be noted what we have before said in respect of the influence of the stars, that Ptolemy in his quad quadripartite quadripartite, I think I said that right, quadripartite, and speaking of generals comes pretty near our ideas on the subject of planetary influence, of which we did not at any time doubt, but do not admit, nay, it is not necessary, seeing there is an astrology in nature, that each action of our life, our afflictions, fortunes, accidents, are deducible to the influential effects of the planets. They proceed from ourselves. But I admit that our thoughts, actions, cogitations sympathize with the stars upon the principle of general sympathy. Again, there is much stronger sympathy between persons of like constitutions and temperament, for each mortal creature possesses a sun and system within himself. I like that. Fuck with that. Each mortal creature possesses a sun and system within himself or herself. Therefore, according to universal sympathy, we are affected by the general influence or universal spirit of the world. As the vital principle throughout the universe, therefore, we are not to look into the configurations of the stars for the cause or incitement of man's bestial inclinations. For brutes have their specific inclinations from the propagation of their principle by seed, not by the design of the horoscope. Therefore, as man is oftentimes capable of the actions and excesses of brutes, they cannot happen to a man naturally, from any other source than the seminal being infused in his composition. Foreseeing likewise that the soul is immortal and endued with free will, which acts upon the body, the soul cannot be inclined by any configuration of the stars either to good or evil, but from its own immortal power of willingly being seduced by sin, it prompts to evil, but enlightened by God, it springs to good on either principle according to its tendency. The soul feeds while, according to its tendency, while the soul feeds or what the soul feeds. While in this frail body, but further concerns the soul of man in this, and after this we shall fully investigate the natural magic of the soul, in which we have fully treated every point of inquiry that has been suggested to us by our own imagination and by scientific experiments have proved its divine virtue originally sealed therein by the author of its being. Yeah, this book is definitely deep. I'm going to highlight that entire last piece. We're going to come back to that one. There's a lot of little sentence gems in there. Every mortal creature possesses a sun and system within himself. The vital principle throughout the universe. Therefore, we are not to look into the configuration of the stars for the cause or incitement of man's bestial inclinations, for brutes have their specific inclinations from the propagation of their principle by seed, not by the sign of the horoscope. I fuck with that hard. Like, you're not a fucking asshole because the stars are aligned, bro. You're just an asshole, you know? Like, it's an eclipse, bro, but don't blame the eclipse because you're a bitch. Like you're just a bitch. You know, it's not the fucking moon's fault that you're a bitch, bro. Like that's what this book is saying right now. I like it. It's a good little wake up call for people to stop looking outside of themselves and look within. I think maybe we have time for one more full page. Let's see. I wanted to get to the a prayer to God part, but we'll see. Sufficient it is to return to our subject relative to astrology, especially to know what part of it's necessary or what part of it is necessary for our use, of which we will select that which is pure into our purpose for the understanding and effecting of various experiments. In the course of our works, leaving the tedious calculations of nativities and never ceasing controversies and cavalations of its professors. The decessant, reading a book, holy crap, from the 1800s, there's like 5, 10, 30 words in one paragraph that are freaking 13-letter words. Give me a second, y'all. Hold up. The dissensions which arise from the various modes of practice, all which we leave to the figure casting plotter, telling him by that whatever he thinks he can foreshew by inspecting the horoscope of a nativity by long, tedious, and night-wearied studies and contemplations. I say whatever he can shew representing personal or natural mutations, changes, accidents, etc. All this we know by a much easier and readier method, and can more comprehensively, clearly, and intelligibly shew and point out to the very letter by our cabal, which we know to be true, without deviation, juggling, fallacy, or collusion, or any kind of deceit or imposture whatsoever, which the cabal or spiritual astrology we draw from, the fountain of knowledge, and all simplicity, humility, and truth. And we boast not of ourselves, but of him who teaches us through his divine mercy by the light of which we are secure amidst the serviced storms of hatred, malice, pride, envy, hypocrisy, levity, bonds, poverty, imprisonment, or any other outward circumstances. We should still be rich, want nothing, be fed with delicious meats, and enjoy plentiful all the good things necessary for our support. All this we do not vainly boast of as figurative, ideal, or chimerical, but real, solid, and everlasting, in which we exult and delight and praise his name forever and ever. Amen. All which we publicly declare to the world for the honor of our God, being at all times ready to do every kindness we can to our poor neighbor, and as far as in us lies to comfort him, sick or afflicted, and doing which we ask no reward. It is sufficient to us that we can do it, and that we may be acceptable to him who says, I am the light of the world, to whom with the Father and Holy Spirit be ascribed all power, might, majesty, dominion. Amen. I think we'll stop it there. That was a good, solid 30-minute read. Again, remember at all times, the books that we recommend here in the Library of Awakening, we don't agree with everything that is written in them. And I constantly, constantly suggest that everybody expand your horizon. Don't just knock a book because you don't like the author or don't like what they write. Read the book all the way front to back and pick apart what you use, what you like, what you don't like, and dispose of what you dislike. Use what you like, dispose of what you don't like. Most of the times you read a book and it'll take you to another source or another book or recommend another book or say a certain line that might lead you to another form of research or just expand your way of thinking. I don't agree with everything that I read in the books that I present to you all or recommend, which I suggest you all do the same. Don't just read something and instantly believe it. Dig a little bit deeper, right? Find meaning behind what it is that you're reading, what you gravitate towards, what you don't. As always, many blessings to you guys. Thank you for tuning in with me on this quick 30-minute read today. Again, we were reading the Book of the Magi. Scroll up to the top of this real fast. No bloopers, no edits anymore. I'm tired of trying to be freaking perfect on the internet. Could care less, and I'm the farthest thing from that. So I'm not going to be editing these videos anymore. I'm just going to go through them. If I stumble on my words, if I mispronunciate something, if I incorrectly grammatize something, whatever, fuck it. I'm not perfect, and you guys will either enjoy that aspect of me or not. I'll vibe with the people that do. So this was the Book of the Magi, the unbridged reprint of Barrett Magus, London's 1801 version, a complete system of occult philosophy consisting of natural, celestial, Kabbalistic, and ceremonial magic, invocations, conjurations of spirits. I will say this, that there is a massive warning at the very beginning of this book, and it says, don't read or apply anything in this book if you do not try to apply it with a whole, just heart. Like, you have to have a pure heart. I completely agree with that, because if you freaking don't have a pure heart and you have bad intentions with this information, or you intend to afflict it on anybody else, or you open up some bad energy that starts to follow you in your life and all that shit, trust me, I know a lot of people in my personal life that have experienced some shit like that. I never have personally, because I'm an A1 optimistic person, but I know people that have opened up portals and fucking invited some very negative entities into their life. And so just be careful if you're going to dabble into these books, these types of very energetic, powerful, deep, intuitive thought processing books. You guys can find this one inside the private CyberX Discord in the Library of Awakening section. If you don't know how to join, tap in with us. Head over to cyberxtrading.com. We'd love to have you on the team. There's literally thousands upon thousands of books. It is a whole entire just arsenal and collection of over 5 years of just solid research. Me and the team constantly dropping book gems over the years. Now, at the end of the day, we are a trading community, but inside our Discord, there is a full concourse of different materials, right? For self improvement, for fitness, for literally anything. We're universal. You just come over here to the CyberX Discord, and you can come to the Library of Awakening section. This section isn't going anywhere. It's going to be there permanently. It's been a part of CyberX for 5 years now. And there's literally so many books in here that you probably fall to your knees at the discovery of some of these titles that are shared in this section. I get this all the time, this message, people saying, well, why would I come and join a Discord when I could just find the books for free? Motherfucker, how are you going to find the books? How are you going to find a book if you don't know the name of the title of the damn book? What are you saying, bro? How are you going to find the book? Is it just going to come to you in a dream? No. So what is CyberX? What is Library of Awakening? Is a source of data. It is a storehouse of knowledge, of research, of people who are probably interested in the same topics or maybe even deeper topics than you, and have literally spent years researching some of the oldest books. I think the other day we came across a book from the 1600s in here. It was like from 1668 or something, on Lemuria, on the lost ancient civilizations of Lemuria from freaking the 1600s. I can't wait to dive back into that book. I actually got to go back and find that one. Today's book is from 1801, right? And where are you going to come across the book from 1801 if you're not told about that book? Well, CyberX, Library of Awakening, we're here to help. We've done the research. We've put in the work. We've shared all the documents. All the books in our Discord are downloadable. You guys are more than welcome to have at it. Spend some time in here. Engage with the other community members. You'll probably end up making a friend. Most of our community members have been with us for 3+ years, some even going on 4 as CyberX OGs. We'd love to have you in the team, in the community. It's honest to God, one of the best communities on earth. And I'm not even just capping, because it's my community. If you need a home, you need somebody else to talk through your journey in life, because trust me, I've been there, the highs and the lows, and I know that it is a very lonely journey. Come tap in with us, because you'll end up making a friend. You'll end up meeting somebody with similar interest. We have Zoom calls all throughout the week, Monday through Friday, sometimes even on Sundays. Other community members are now hosting Zoom calls on the weekends for psychology. It's a great place to be. Hope to see you guys on the inside. Many blessings to you all. With that being said, I'll see you all in the next video breakdown. TikTok.